Welcome back, episode 2 of season 2 of the Inside Voice podcast. My name is Jess. For those of you who are new, I want to say thank you for joining me for another episode. We are doing a series called Begin Again because that is literally what I'm doing right now. I am beginning again with season 2 of the Inside Voice podcast. For those of you who are unfamiliar, this was a podcast a couple of years ago. It was a podcast for 3 years. We'll say 3 years. A lot happened in those 3 years, I'll be honest with you. The podcast launched in 2020, and then we all know what 2020 turned into. I think I actually launched it, like the beginning of the year, I think January, and then everything changed and shifted. I gotta say, as we're doing this series of Begin Again, giving ourselves permission to pick up the things that we put down, pick up the things that maybe we failed at or just straight up quit back in the day and starting them again. I gotta say, in the midst of season 1 of the Inside Voice podcast, there was a lot that happened, and I'm pretty stinking proud of myself for sticking through. Like, not only was it the pandemic, which obviously affected all of us, but my mom passed away in 2021, and that was also like a major setback. So I think even just the podcast lasting for 3 years, like, okay. So let's start there, shall we? That's a total pivot from what I was initially going to do. But, I think, last week we talked about when you start something again, it's good to recognize why you put it down in the first place. Like, it's almost like reading a book, right? You're going through the chapters, you're going through it, you put it away, and then you just never pick it up again. Like, why didn't you pick it up again? Did you not like the story? Did you not like the way the book felt in your hands? Did it feel, did you just forget about it? And when it comes to starting whatever dream you have or whatever goal you have, whatever podcast you're doing, whatever you're chasing, it's important to think about what went wrong. Was it a time issue? Was it a fear issue? Was it a failure issue, a roadblock issue? And you can go back and listen to episode 1 to get a little in-depth information on that. But I think it's also important to recognize the wins that you had. I wish I would have covered that the first one, but maybe sit down and write a list of things that went well and focus on things that you did right. Focus on the ways that you were successful in that first season. Being able to maintain a podcast in the midst of chaos and trauma and grief. I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back for that. Because honestly, I just had a revelation right now talking with you of that was a tough thing, and a lot of tough roadblocks, and we were able to navigate a lot of them. So look for those things because, there's going to be a lot of things that you encounter as you are starting again and beginning again that are going to make you want to run for the hills, that are going to make you want to give up again. And maybe it would be important to recognize, write down, and refer back to the ways that you were successful. I think one of the easiest ways that I can relate some of these things is through fitness, because I've had a fitness journey the last couple of years. I have seen more success this time around than I have in the past. And even in those moments where it's hard or you're not seeing the results or you completely fall off the wagon when it comes to eating well or whatever, it's nice to look at the wins. It's nice to say, okay, well, yes, I messed up here. Like, this was a problem here, but at the same time, I was successful here. I was able to do this. I accomplished this. There was success here. You kind of zoom out a little bit and go, all right, yeah, there were some issues in the moment right here in the present. But when I look back, it's like, okay, there was actually a lot of good things that happened overall, and I see the results overall. It's important to hold on to those things when you're chasing something. So start there. Start by doing that. That's gonna be your homework for the week. I used to do little homework assignments when I did season 1 of the Inside Voice podcast. I don't know if I will do that this time around. We will see. It might warrant it. It might not. But I think each week, thinking about these things and trying to put them into practice would be helpful. I'm also one of those people that I like tangible things. I like to see things. I like to see progress. I like to visualize. And if I can have stuff in front of me that I can see, it's a lot easier for me to operate, like having notes. So notes for my podcast. So if you see me looking down, that's what we're doing here. Wow, I just removed the fourth wall. Now you know all the secrets. Maybe I should just show you the whole setup of my office right now. Let's just peel the curtain back completely. Let's just show you the wizard, shall we? Nice little Wizard of Oz reference for you. We do have that second movie of Wicked coming out in November, and I'm very, very excited about that. In our Begin Again series, if we can get back into focus here, we're going to talk about opposition. Because it will happen. You remember the first time that you were doing something, there was opposition. There were things that were coming up and coming at you left and right that were throwing you off your game, that were throwing you off course. Those are going to happen again. They may not happen the exact same way. There may even be new things that come your way, but understanding that there's going to be problems going into whatever you're doing is going to benefit you in the long run. It's almost like when you get in your car and you're ready to go on a road trip and you're like, okay, what are things that I need to be aware of as I go on this road trip? Well, you might need to be aware of traffic. You might need to be aware of where your rest stops are. If you're going on an extended road trip, you're going to want to know where you can stop and fuel up because nobody wants to run out of gas. If you are like my husband and you are so incredibly focused on details and you're a smart cookie and you have a checklist and you go through the checklist, you will probably also check your tire pressure and make sure that your tire pressure is good before you go on our long road trip. Like he just has that attention to detail that I don't necessarily have. I'm like, is there fuel in the tank? Let's go. Oh, is there a Chick-fil-A or like a In-N-Out burger or a Buc-ee's on the way? Let's go. Did I bring my dog Oliver? We're good. Then that's all we need. I'm not the biggest planner. But, being able to recognize that there could be issues, how to prepare for those issues, really important as you're moving forward in whatever you're chasing. It could be a new project that you're taking on, could be a new hobby, could be a lifestyle change. Recognizing that there's going to be problems and opposition is always important. I actually did a little scientific deep dive here. I feel like I should probably put some glasses on. Oh, look, I have some glasses right here. I did not plan that. So I'm gonna put my nerd glasses on right now. Oh gosh. Are those crooked on my face? They feel very crooked. I'm just making it worse. Okay, got my nerd glasses on. Let's talk about Sir Isaac Newton, shall we? Sir Isaac Newton is the man known for the laws of motion. 3 laws of motion, in fact. He is known for, how can I explain this in a way that makes sense? The laws of motion are basically the study of a physical object and the forces acting upon it. That's where the laws of motion come from. So let's start with the first law of motion. You may remember this from like being a kid. The law of inertia. Just say that out loud once in your life in front of somebody else, and they're going to think you're so smart. I feel smart saying it in front of you, especially with my glasses on. The law of inertia says this: moving objects like to be moving. Resting objects like to be resting. So basically what this means is if you have been living your life a certain way, you're probably going to continue living your life that certain way unless you make a change. So let's say your goal is to work out more often. You want to be more physically active in your life. You can totally do that. But just know, if you have not been physically active in your life, it's going to be really hard for you to get that ball moving because law of inertia says you like being sedentary, at least for the time being. I'm not calling you anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that your standard way of living, your routine, what you've become accustomed to is resting. And you're going to want to stay in that state of rest. Whereas if you are moving, as if you've already started this habit of taking care of yourself and being more active in your day-to-day and making your routine reflective of that, like you've got a routine that supports your lifestyle and your active lifestyle, you're more likely to stay in that because you're already in that motion. You know what I mean? So let's say you're starting a business. Getting that business off the ground is going to take a lot of work because it's a sedentary thing. You've got to get it moving. But once it gets moving, once you get that momentum going, chef's kiss. It's going to be beautiful. Second law of motion from Sir Isaac Newton is the law of force and acceleration. This basically says that a great force equals great acceleration, whereas a large mass would require more acceleration. Let me break that down for you. Your business is a giant ball, a beach ball. You got to move that beach ball up the mountain in order for that business to be successful. The bigger the beach ball, the more force it's going to take to get it up the mountain. The heavier the beach ball, the more force it's going to take to get it up the mountain. Also, the more force that you give it, the more it's going to move. So if you can get a really good running start behind that thing and just push it as hard as you can, it's going to move far. It's going to move well. It's going to have a higher rate of acceleration. So anything that you are looking to start in your life, there's going to be a point where you're going to have to put force on it to make it happen. And the bigger the dream, the harder the force. The bigger the project, the bigger the idea, the bigger lifestyle change, the harder the force needs to be to get that thing in motion. But again, going back to the first law of motion, if you can get it in motion, there's a good chance that that motion is going to keep it going. It's going to have that momentum to keep moving forward. Let's talk about the third law of motion, according to Sir Isaac Newton. He was the Apple guy, wasn't he? Not the Apple computer guy. No. Like the apple. I think that's what started this whole thing. That was the object and the forces acting on the object. The third law of motion from Sir Isaac Newton is the law of action and reaction. This is the one that people remember the most. This is the one that people quote a lot. You see this on social media. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Basically, if you're starting something, if you're pushing something forward, going back to that beach ball, if you push it forward, there's a force that's pushing back on you as well. That's what creates that little bit of resistance. So if you are making a change in your life, it's going to push back on you. Same thing with getting into motion, getting some momentum going, putting force onto whatever it is that you're chasing and getting that momentum going. There's going to be stuff that pushes back. If you're trying to add something to your routine, we talk about fitness. If you're trying to put that into your routine and you're trying to change things up so that you can make time for you to work out, and let's say the way that you want to do that is by getting up earlier, well, your action is you're going to get up earlier. You're going to set your alarm to go off at an earlier time, and that's going to get you up and moving for your workout. The problem is that alarm's going to go off, and guess what? You're the equal and opposite reaction that hits snooze. You had the action to set the alarm to get yourself up earlier, and immediately when that alarm goes off, when that force comes in and says, hey, remember, we set this goal, we're getting up, we're moving our body, we're going, let's go. That's what the alarm is saying to you. You're that equal and opposite reaction that says, I don't have to. I'm not getting up. I'm not going to the gym. I'm hitting snooze and I'm going back to sleep. Making change is hard in your life. Carving out time to do the things that are important to you. Making an effort to be kinder to people. That takes a lot of effort, and there's going to be stuff that pushes back. Our stubbornness, our routines, our comfort zones are always going to push back on us, So those are the three laws of motion, and I feel like they're all pretty applicable to doing something that you want to do with your life, you're going to have to get some momentum going, which is going to, it's interesting. I don't know why the law of force and acceleration isn't the first law, because it seems to me that's the catalyst. That's what starts anything that you're trying to do in motion. And then you can get into the law of inertia, and then you can get into the equal and opposite reaction. I don't know if they're supposed to be in order or not. Maybe it's just how he discovered them. Who knows? But just understand that, like I said, change is hard, and updating routines is hard. Finding a way to accomplish the things that you want in life is hard. Thinking outside the box is hard. And oftentimes when you're trying to do something, especially if you've never done it before, that's the hardest part, is like, how do I do this? How do I figure this out? So, I gave you permission last week to begin again. I encouraged you to give yourself that permission as well, of like, hey, you can do this. Whatever you want to do in life, like, you are absolutely capable of doing it. You know that. Even if you already started it and it didn't work out, you can go back to it and either pick up where you left off, or you have this new perspective of what didn't go right the first time or what did go right the first time. And you've got more puzzle pieces to work with now. And now you can put together a better plan for moving forward. But understand that you may account for A, B, and C things that happened the first time around, and know what to do when those oppositions come, because like, oh, I've been there before. I remember I set my alarm earlier, and when it went off, I didn't get up. So I did this. I put my phone across the room, and now I have to get up to go turn off my alarm. So then I'm already up, and I'll just be up and I'll go to the gym. Or I'm laying out my clothes, so that way I've got them. I'm sleeping in my gym clothes, so that way I can just get up and go to the gym, whatever it is. You're accounting for the roadblocks that you already encountered the first time around, but there might be new roadblocks that are coming around. There might be new things that pop up that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't encounter this the first time that I was trying to do this, and I don't know what to do. I think about, the last time I did a podcast, it did not look like this. It didn't look like anything. Well, actually it did. I did try to do some videos with season 1 of the podcast. It didn't work out well, obviously. But so much has changed since then. Even the fact that I'm filming a podcast right now and feeling like everybody films podcasts now, but the technology has changed, and it's exciting. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot to look forward to with doing this podcast again. There's a lot that I have to learn as well. Even like technology has changed so much. I'm a broadcaster. I see everybody with these little lapel mics all over the place now. People are using them all over Instagram. When I first did the podcast, like, even when I first started doing like broadcasting and recording from my home, it was like, getting equipment for that was a thing, like you had to go through like BSW or Guitar Center or something like that and get like legit equipment, right? I have a Heil microphone, which is like super fancy. And now it's like, there's so many other companies out there, so many other tech companies out there making stuff that's just so new and so different, so accessible as well, which is exciting. Don't get me wrong. But also it's like, oh my gosh, none of this existed when I was doing this first. So I have to learn how to do this. Like, I think about the last time I did the podcast, was TikTok even a thing? I don't think so. So yeah, things change. And as exciting as that is, and how a lot of technology is going to make things a lot easier for you this time around with whatever it is that you're chasing, it also is going to make you have to sit down and like figure things out. You know what I mean? Doing this whole setup right here, like just figuring out like how to film, what to film with, how to light things, how to frame things. I'm sure there are a million YouTube guys and gals out there right now that are looking at my video. Wait. There are not a million people looking at this. Let's back that up, Jess. Like, whoa. But I'm sure there are like pros out there, seasoned individuals on YouTube that are going to look at this and be like, ooh. I'm sure there's going to be audio people that go, ooh. As somebody who works in audio, works in broadcast, not a visual broadcast, but an auditory broadcast, I do listen to people's audio, and I can be like, oh, that's too hot. Oh, that is definitely splitting, or there's too much sibilance in their in their audio. Not that I'm picking it apart. It's just, you pick up on that stuff. But, again, so much has changed, and I've just had to learn so much in putting this podcast together. You will also have that learning period as well. Sure, you've done it before. You've done whatever it is before, but if you're like me, you've taken a couple of years off, like there's new stuff to learn, and it's exciting, but it is going to take a little bit of extra work. So knowing that going in, I think, is going to help you. Also, there might be opposition in a spiritual sense. I feel like I need to address this because a lot of people in life are looking for their calling. A lot of people are looking for their purpose in life. A lot of people pray, like, God, show me what I'm supposed to do with my life. Show me why you put me on this earth. And I'm one of those people, you know. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast again, is because I feel like God has asked me to do it. Sorry, He has told me to do it. Whether this reaches one person and that one person is me, or it reaches hundreds, thousands of people, I don't know. Like I tell people, I am called to obedience, not to results. But I have to tell you, when it became very clear to me that I was going to begin again and do this podcast again and do another season and explore it and see where it goes, when I made that decision, when it became clear to me and I said, I'm in, let's start making it happen, there were things that happened in my life that instantly made me think, am I doing the right thing? Should I do this? Like, when I started getting this confirmation of doing this podcast, like, God bless, my dog ate rat poison over Easter weekend, and it was a whole traumatic experience, just, you know, taking him to the emergency room and like getting everything figured out and settled and all that stuff. But I mean, I got to tell you, like, I was preparing to say goodbye to my dog that weekend. Like, it was traumatic. I almost hit a deer driving on a road that I have never seen a deer on ever before in my life. This is where it gets even crazier. There was a week where I encountered 3 snakes at our house. Little ones, don't get me wrong. But, you know, one of them was in our garage, and, you know, we kind of live a little country-esque, I guess you could say, but, you know, just people will call that spiritual attacks. And I do believe in that. But I want you to know that even if you don't believe in Jesus, if you aren't doing something because you feel like it's your calling in life, or that God has placed this as something that you need to do with your life, you know, if you don't think that it's spiritual in nature, there's still going to be things that pop up that almost make you second guess yourself. For me, honestly, it's like every time one of those things happened, I think the first thing was the deer, the second thing was the rat poison, then there were the snakes, and then I had this other thing, like I had to get a biopsy done. It was just like thing after thing after thing after thing. It was almost like every time one of those things came, it was like, okay, I know I'm on the right path. I know I'm supposed to be doing something here. I know that God is asking me to do something here, because I literally have the enemy coming for me. You know what I mean? Those spiritual attacks. So if you are somebody who loves Jesus and you are pursuing something that you believe that He has put on your life, just know that stuff is going to happen. And I think that's when we need to be really, really consistent with prayer, really consistent with seeking out what God wants us to do, and really asking for clarity. I remember there were so many times in those weeks that I was just like, God, I only want to hear your voice right now. I don't want to hear anything else. I don't want to hear chatter, fodder, nothing. I need to hear you, because I don't want to step into something that I'm not supposed to step into. You know, sometimes there can be things that pop up. It's like why do I keep talking about driving in the car, you know? But there are times when people say, well, there's a reason why I got stuck in traffic. It's because it saved me from an accident down the road or something like that. There can be things that will keep you or warn you or make you think, like, is this something that I should be doing? But I think ultimately, if you're pursuing something that is God-given, be prepared for the enemy to rear his ugly head, because I experienced that before I even started getting set up. And honestly, it kind of motivated me a little bit more. It was kind of like, okay, good try with that one. I'm still going to do this. But ultimately, you know, last week we talked about how many people give up on things that they want to do? How many people give up on their dreams? How many people fail at it and then never try again, never use that as intel to move forward? 92% of people it's just staggering to me. 92% of people that set out to do something, they never finish it. But 8% see it to completion. And I'm challenging you to be the 8%. but being smart, knowing that you're going to hit speed bumps, knowing that it's going to be hard, especially like starting the engine and like getting it going. It's going to be tough to keep it going, to keep the momentum going, but ultimately you just got to keep in mind like why you're doing this in the first place. I think that carries you through. I think that carries you through the opposition as well. I think about just the mindset change that you can have in your life. I know I talk about fitness a lot, but I played sports growing up. Like it speaks to me. But changing your mindset when it comes to fitness was such a big thing for me because I had tried so many other times to be consistent in working out. I tried so many times to be somebody who took care of their body on a regular basis, and it was tough. It was tough to become that person. But I think the reasons why I failed in the past is because I didn't have the right why. I didn't understand what I was doing it for. It was always like a cosmetic thing. It was always something that was superficial. It was never like a celebration of what a body could do. It was never, I think the biggest revelation for me is understanding that this body that I have is a gift, and being able to get out and move that body and challenge it is an act of worship to the God who gave me the body, who created this body. That was a huge mindset shift for me. Whew, almost cursed. Almost had to put an E on this podcast title. Explicit. But really changing your mindset when you're pursuing something, I think, is important. Understanding your why and understanding who that vision came from. For me, it's from God, but also I think you may have a calling on your life to do something because you're kids, or because you care about other people, or whatever it is. Like getting really grounded in that why. Why you're doing something. Even I think about this podcast, like why would I do this podcast again? I think when I first did the podcast, I think my why is because I wanted to do a podcast. And I enjoy self-help. I enjoy, Ed Milet and Brendan Burchard and Tony Robbins and all these other people that encourage others, and Mel Robbins, like I enjoy engaging with that stuff. I enjoy consuming that stuff. And so I wanted to do it, but I didn't know why I wanted to do it. I knew it like floated my boat and like fueled my fire and made me feel good, but I didn't know why. And I think this time around, it's like I've realized that there are so many people that are walking through this life and they're just going through the motions. They're not seeking out what they really want. They're not living a life that is fulfilling. They're not living a life that is what they want. It's a life that's been created for them. It's a life that they've kind of been pigeonholed into. And that just drives me nuts. And I just want to be that person that's like, no, you can do it. You can do more. You can, and I'm even saying this to myself, like you can do more. You can do the things that you want in life. And it doesn't matter if it's been done a million times before, or if nobody in your family's ever done it before. It doesn't matter if, people think you're silly. Like, just go do it. Like, make it happen, Gosh, even just talking about people thinking you're silly for doing something, that's an opposition that's going to come. That is a force that's going to be, hitting you. If we're talking about the laws of motion, you're going to have to let go of that stuff. You're going to have to let go of what. It's always interesting to me because strangers on the internet can say what they want about me, and I'm like, cool. But if it comes to people in my circle, I have an issue with that. When it comes to what my friends think about me, what my family thinks about me, what my husband thinks about me, I take that very seriously. You gotta let that go. Doesn't matter what strangers are saying. Doesn't matter what your family's saying. You've gotta live your life. You've gotta do your thing. And so, gosh, I think even we hold ourselves back and we paint our own narrative in our mind, and we hold ourselves back. We are the ones that are casting shame on ourselves, and we don't need to do that. Trust me, people around you, they're not thinking about you as much as you think they are. So you've got to be really careful with the way that you think about yourself. I believe it was Ed Milet that said this. Maybe he was quoting somebody else. I can't remember. but you have the most conversations with yourself. So the way you think about yourself matters more than what other people think about themselves, because you're in your brain, right? So if you're thinking all these things about yourself, you're going to listen to that more than you're going to listen to the noise around you, whether it's good or bad noise around you. So get it right in here. Get your why figured out and get that opposition taken care of. And I think you'll see a lot of success. So thank you for joining me for another episode of the Inside Voice podcast. We are continuing our Begin Again series next week, and it's the starting blocks. It's where do we begin in this begin again. So excited to dive in next week. But this week, like we talked about at the beginning of this episode, think about your wins from your last time around when you were chasing this dream. I don't think we do that enough. I think we're always focused on the failures. The failures can be really good intel for you, really good information for you, can create a really good perspective for you. But the wins are going to carry you through the tough times. The wins are going to carry you through the opposition. The wins are going to make you think, okay, this is hard, but I also know that it has worked in various ways. I also know that I saw success here, here, and here. So when the opposition comes, when there's that equal and opposite force against us, when the dream feels really big and really heavy, when we feel like there's no momentum, like those little wins are going to remind us like, hey, no, you got this. So think back to the first time that you tried to do something and it didn't work out. Think about the good things. Understand that as you start it up again, as you begin again, there is going to be opposition. And next week, we're putting that key in the ignition and we are going to get going. So have a good week. Love you. See you next week.